Welcome back. We're unpacking things related to immigration and why it seems that more permanent residents are not opting for the citizenship route here in Canada. Joining me again is Peter Shawn Taylor. Peter, we were discussing before the commercial break that we see sometimes uh, immigrants coming, they stay a few years, and they say, you know what, we're going to go elsewhere. Why do you think that's happening? I mean, I appreciate the grass is always greener elsewhere, and there's always somewhere else one can go. But that seems to be happening more now than before. Why do you think?
Well, maybe before we get to the why, just cover some of the what we know, which is StatsCan surveys. We have data on the rate at which permanent residents decide to pursue citizenship. They have to be here for 5 years before they can pursue citizenship. So what is the rate at which permanent residents become citizens? And traditionally, that's been in the high 60s, mid 70s, as low as 70%. So as recently as 2001, it was around 75%. So that suggests a high level of success in selecting immigrants who want to permanently settle in Canada.
Hmm.
Lately, that's in the most recent data that we've seen, it's fallen below 50%. So that's a
Yes.
big change. And so that's sort of the premise for what's going on here. Why are immigrants we are allowing into the country? Why are they apparently deciding they don't really want to be Canadian citizens for the rest of their life, and they're just looking at being permanent residents permanently, or they're just considering Canada to be a bit of a way station? So that's sort of the nub of where the problem might is identified. And so your question was, why is this happening? Well, there's a
Hmm.
bunch of reasons. People are coming to Canada thinking that this is where they want to spend the rest of their life. They're looking around and thinking, well, maybe Canada's not for me for whatever reason. That would, as a Canadian, that's somewhat concerning to me, I guess, because I think Canada is a great country. Why doesn't everyone else? And if it's because they don't see the economic opportunities in Canada that they do in other countries, that's doubly concerning, because
Right.
that means there's something fundamental going on. We're bringing people in hoping they're well-educated people who are going to create jobs, and then they say, well, I don't want to do that here. I want to do that somewhere else. So that's something to be concerned about. Other issues that are in the mix. China has cracked down on the ability of its citizens to have dual citizenship. So that may be playing a factor as well. And if so, that's sort of beyond the control of anything in Canada.
So
But
it's
I'd be
forcing the
we
Chinese to
don't
pick.
really know. There's a bunch of things going on.
So Chinese Canadians might be forced to sort of select: do I want Chinese passport or Canadian passport, Chinese citizenship or Canadian
Forced
citizenship?
to pick one or the other. They can't have both. And there is some suggestion that they're choosing to retain their Chinese citizenship if they can't have both. So that might be in the mix as well. We don't really know, other than the fact that these numbers are falling quite precipitously. Certainly, there's room for more research in the area.
No, absolutely. Now, how long can a Canadian immigrant or an immigrant to Canada sit as a permanent resident? I know you said after 5 years they can apply for citizenship. Could they become a permanent resident indefinitely?
I believe they can. They've been allowed in the country, but they're just sort of keeping their options open, I guess. If you want to look at citizenship as sort of belonging to Club Canada, there's all sorts of benefits to belonging to the club that we call Canada. You get to vote, et cetera. You have a stake in society that's a little more substantial than just being a permanent resident.
It's a great passport for
Um,
travel.
Yes, carry a Canadian passport, et cetera. So why are people saying I don't want a Canadian passport? As I said, that seems concerning to me.
No, most definitely. Uh, do you think there are factors that us Canadians, and we only have about a minute before commercial break, but is there something that we're doing that might be dissuading immigrants from becoming Canadian citizens?
Well, maybe we'll get it. We could get into this in the next segment, but I think the big issue in this regard is if we consider Canada to be something of a club or a team, how are we marketing that club? And what is the official sort of government narrative about Canadian history? And is it the kind of club that anyone would want to join? And I think when you think about it, in detail, we're branding ourselves all wrong. The stories we're telling about Canada would scare anybody off.
Yes,
So maybe it's not a surprise there.
especially in the last couple of years, especially as we are delving more into our history and seeing what did or did not happen. Anyhow, we're going
Yes.
to pick up this discussion in just a few moments. Please stick around.